Hello, I'm Merve İleri. I'm a master's student and a teaching assistant in Middle East Technical University. Today I will present you a study titled Does Response Type Change the Stroop Effect in a Mass Tracking Experiment? I conducted this study with my advisors Mısırlısoy and Nart Bedin Atalay. In this study, we aim to understand the effect of response type on the stroop task in a mass tracking experiment. In a classic color-word stroop task, congruent, neutral, and incongruent stimuli are presented to participants, and they are instructed to respond to the color dimension of the stimulus while ignoring the word itself. The facilitation effect is giving faster responses to the congruent items compared to the neutral items. And interference effect is giving slower responses to the incongruent items compared to the neutral items. The total of facilitation and interference effects, so the difference between the congruent and incongruent items, is the stroop effect. The stroop task is commonly used in many different areas, but there is only a few studies using the stroop task with the mass tracking method. I want to emphasize the importance of mass tracking method. In most of the studies using the stroop task, reaction time and error are used as dependent variables. Although they are valuable and informative, they only give information about the final decision of participants. They lack the information related to dynamic internal processes and decision-making stages of participants. However, mass tracking is able to capture temporal evaluation of responses. So it gives much more information about the dynamic processes. There are several dependent variables we can use with the mass tracking, but I will explain two of them. Area under the curve is the geometrical area between the trajectory that participants followed when responding and the optimal trajectory for the correct response. And it shows the total attraction to the distractor during the trial. The other one is maximum deviation. It shows the maximum distraction in the trial, and we use the time of this maximum deviation as a dependent variable. We argued that it might show the resolution time of conflict as well as the time of highest conflict. And this is an example trajectory of a participant. Condition 1 shows the congruent items, and condition 2 shows the incongruent items. You can clearly see the vacillation between the alternative responses and indecision of participants in the incongruent trials. In this study, we pre-registered our hypothesis, power analysis, design, and analysis plan in Open Science Framework, and you can access them with that link or this QR code. We manipulated item type as congruent, incongruent, and neutral. And more importantly, we manipulated the response type as the between subjects variable. Participants either solved the response alternatives as color patches, numbers, or words. Because there's not a consensus on the methodology of studies using the mass tracking method, and we believed that the response type would affect the results. We observed the same pattern for reaction time, maximum deviation time, and area under the curve. The stroop effect and interference effect was significant for the word and the number conditions, and the facilitation effect was significant only for the word condition, and none of the effects was significant for the color patch condition. When we look at the results closer, the highest stroop effect and also the highest interference and facilitation effects were observed for the word condition. We argued that as the requirement of the stroop task, participants try to ignore the word dimension of the stimulus, but also need to process the word into response alternatives for the word condition. It creates an additional conflict and increases the stroop effect. On the other hand, the lack of stroop effect for the color patch condition was an interesting finding when we consider the robustness and the large effect sizes usually observed with the stroop task. We explained this finding from a response compatibility perspective. When the response type is color patch, the color dimension of the stimulus is prioritized and the word dimension is suppressed, and it eliminates the stroop effect. To conclude, we showed that response type affected the stroop task and the stroop effect, and we cannot use color patch, word, and number interchangeably. So the methodological choices that researchers make should be considered when interpreting the results. Thank you all for listening to our study, and if you have any questions, we will be happy to answer them.